Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you tuning in once again. So we're going to do a little update on our 50 LX Mustang notchback. Yes, sir. So this is where we're at with the body work. Nowhere. Still the same thing. This is completely cured out. This is good to go. I was going to shoot it again just to fill in some of those panel lines, but I hit a little bit of black Tamiya panel line on it, and that filled it in really nice. So we're good to go there. I'm not going to do anything else to it. Like I say, I haven't done nothing to it other than that. I got a speck right there on the trunk. See that dirt spot right there? It's the only thing you're like, I mean, just to glance at the car, you really wouldn't notice it unless you're really looking at it. But just in certain light, it really pops. That's kind of the only major spot I got. Then there's one right there. But what to do? So I might leave it. Just because the rest of it turned out pretty good. Like I say, I haven't done nothing to it other than that. So it's just been sitting in the Susie Bake oven. So like I say, that's all nicely cured out. So that's nice. Sprayed underneath the hood with the Tamiya flat black. And that's good to go. So I got the dashboard done. So this is where we're at with the dash. Try to get it held up here. So I don't think that turned out too bad. I two-toned it. So a few things I kind of did a little wrong. The steering wheel I should have done in a more of a gloss black, because that's kind of the color those were. And I tried to simulate the heater control with the hot and cold. But then after I got done with it, I got looking at it and I thought, you know what? I think that was on the center, not on the side. But I think I'm just going to leave it. That took a little bit with the toothpick to try to get that, and man, once it started to flow out that toothpick, it was like, yep, it filled it in. I thought, okay, that's kind of hard to do. Maybe if I took a little more time with it, could have been a little more patient with it. But that's where you ended up at. I did a little bit of green for the radio, and the steering wheel has buttons on it for your cruise control and then the horn, and the top ones I believe are the horn, and the bottom four are the cruise control. And I was going to just leave them, but it looked kind of weird. So the realistic ones, like I say, they're just printed on letters. Yeah, so that's about as good as it's going to get. Put the decal on the dash for the Mustang decal, and then it's got the gauges in there, decals for the gauges. So I think it turned out pretty good. So I put some microsol in there and let that soak in good. And so that's it with the dash. Like I say, I two-tone that. Actually kind of three tones if you go with the cluster assembly. So I did kind of a light, kind of a black color. And I'll show you the rest of the interior. So this turned out pretty cool. So that's where we're at with that. So the base of the floor, that is flat black. That's Tamiya flat black. The whole shell is painted in that. And the seats are painted in gloss, semi-gloss black Tamiya. And the center, which is the same as the dash, believe it or not, that is Tamiya rubber black. And I think that turned out really cool. That is like the perfect shade for the two-tone part of that. So I think that turned out pretty cool. So what I did is I painted the whole seat with semi-gloss black. And then I just masked it off at the kind of the line of the seat, and went ahead and sprayed it with the airbrush, and I masked it off so the back is still glossy. I just run tape line across the top of the seat, and that's how I left it. So the rest of the seat's still all black except for the headrest. And I did the same with the console. The armrest is semi-gloss, and the most of the console is the rubber black. Then I masked off the front where your gear shifter is. I did that with the semi-gloss clear. And I had to put the, we got the parking brake on, so it's in the up position, because we got it parked. So that's where that's at. Like I said, the bottom's all sprayed Tamiya black, flat black. Door panels, kind of did the same thing with the tone on that. I took these and masked that off, and that is also rubber black on the bottom. Just kind of give it a break up on the black. And then I did the top edge here, that's also in rubber black. Both panels are done that way. So I thought that turned out pretty cool. So moving on to the exhaust. So that's what I did with the exhaust. I took the original exhaust system, which is right here, and I cut this. I cut the H-pipe off. And I thought, you know what? This would be super cool because this would work great for a diorama. You know, like leaning up against something. And I really like how they put the extra exhaust pipe in here that goes up for the back of the head for the EGR system. I thought that was really cool they put that on. I remember back in the day, I remember replacing a lot of those back then, especially on Grand Marquis and stuff, because they all had that same style setup. Anything that had the 5-liter in it and the 351. So that was kind of cool that they put that on there. So I did, this was together like this, so I just took and cut that. So we're just going to put this to the side, and they give you an off-road exhaust for the drag car. So that's this guy here. So this had kind of like, I don't know, almost like a cherry bomb style exhaust on it. That was on there, so I cut that off. And I like the H-pipe, kind of the box they have on there. It kind of looks like a Mack exhaust system. I'm not really sure which brand that would be. So we're putting the off-road H-pipe on it with no exhaust, or with no converters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag those onto here. So once I get that in the car, I'm going to glue that on. Then I took and painted the mufflers, kind of simulate a kind of like an aftermarket muffler, like a Black Widow muffler or something like that. And going from there. So once I get this in the car, well, before I get it in there, I'm going to actually take and cut this off right here. I'm going to cut that tip off about right here at the bend. And I'm going to use my aluminum tubing and make an actual aluminum tip for this. Because if you mock this up to the car, these almost sit too far inboard for what the real ones are. I got my 85 Mercury Capri out in the garage, and I have the stainless tips on that. And the model, the tips are actually almost like this once it's mocked up. They should be more to the edge, almost right underneath that panel there. So we're going to correct that and put that together. So lastly, we got the engine together. I think this turned out really nice. So that's all set. So my guy working on it here, like I say, I'm doing a stock build, but then again I'm doing kind of a mild. We did some performance to it, you know, because most guys that owns Mustangs, they don't leave them stock. You know, I'd say probably 95% of them have something altered to it. So we got our nice exhaust system on it, so it's got some nice tone with it now. Got rid of those converters, give it a little go fast, give her better sound. And the engine, we took it out, maybe rebuilt it. It's probably 30 or 40 over. So this time painted the block blue, because originally from the factory, these blocks are usually gray. And we left the chromey valve covers on. I usually don't put the chrome valve covers on it out of the box. I think they almost look too chrome, so I did the Molotol on there. We got our aftermarket headers on there. And we're still running the factory distributor. I really like that distributor boot they put on there. I think that was always kind of cool. And for you Ford guys out there, I even did the distributor off to the right. You know, it's turned just a little bit for that 10 degrees before top dead center timing, so this baby should run pretty good. Other than that, we did the upper intake plenum. Did the Molotov pen on the idler control motor there in the front. And then we did our EGR valve in the back. I did the gold on there. I tried to do the white in the back, but I don't know why it's just not picking up very good. Where the on the back of that EGR valve is your plug right here in the back. That's where your plug would be. And then did a little Molotov pen around there, simulate the EGR valve. And then right on the throttle body, that black ring there, that's your throttle position sensor. So I've worked on a lot of these things over the years. And the plug in the front, that should be oval for what I remember, but that's okay, it looks pretty good. The only thing I see that's a little bit out of scale on this engine is that it sets a little high, but it could be because of the intake. Because the intake was for the race application, because usually that plenum is just barely above that valve cover. I mean, I'm talking, because you can't get the valve cover off of that plenum on there, so it's just barely usually above it, but it might be because the intake's for that trick flow intake they give you in the kit. But other than that, I think this engine looks really nice for a stock engine. And also my guy that's working on it here, we put a chromey thermostat housing on there, because you know you got to have Gotta have a little chrome on there, you know. Our chrome will get you home, the old saying. So that is the engine. So the engine is painted with the MCW Port Engine Blue enamel. And the silver is painted with the Tamiya flat aluminum. The transmission's painted the same thing. And I really like the detail on that plenum where it's the 50HO. That is really nice detail. Real crisp and clean. So I took my panel line from Tamiya and I made sure the brush was pretty cleaned off. And I just barely tapped it and let it flow through there at each piece. And I think that turned out pretty cool. I'm holding the camera by hand, guys, so I may be a little shaky on it, you know. Other than that, that's where we're at so far. So I also got the axle done in the back. Put the race cover on the back with the girdle on it versus the stock one. So we got that going. And the other thing, I got the headlight, one of the headlights done. So I did the Tamiya in there. The clear orange. Did that on the markers. And then did a little bit of black on the center where the headlight would be. You probably can't see it in there. Just a little dot, simulate the headlight bulb. And then I took the Sharpie marker and I went around the edge of it for my black. And then I took the lens, same thing. Did Sharpie around the lens. And then I did a Sharpie in the center where those two lines are here. Because those should be gaskets in there. If you look at one of these Fox bodies, that's actually a gasket around their rubber seal. So with the Sharpie, obviously it's too fat, the one I have anyways. So it left it just a real heavy all the way around. So I took a little bit of alcohol, like isopropyl alcohol, dipped it in a Q-tip, kind of wiped it off real good so it wasn't much on there, and just wiped that off, and that left me a nice clean look on that. So that looks pretty cool. So with that against that light, that actually looks really sharp. Gives you a nice look on that. So once that's in the car, this part will be hidden, you can't see it, but I think that turns out pretty sharp. So it looked really nice there. So I was looking at the prototype photo. So on my dashboard I did screw up. I thought it was in the wrong spot. I put my temp control on this side versus in the middle. This is an 88 book, and that Mustang there is probably more like a 93, like the last of that era. So, and then also looking at the lights, at the fog lights, I'm sorry, at the headlights where the running lights are. And I knew they were amber all the way across the front. So if you look at the kit, you know, they have it sectioned off right here. So you're going to need to take and paint this to make this correct as well. Another look on this picture here. So when you get the light to paint that, they basically give you buckets to paint. I got this one over here. So they basically give you a bucket to paint. And, you know, so you need to bring that amber paint all around to the edge to make that look correct. So guys, I'll tell you what, you know, people talk about beginner kits, stuff like that. This is a nice beginner kit. This kit goes together very, very well. This is actually a really nice builder. I mean, this is a very enjoyable kit. So far, there's been zero fitment issue. Like I say, it looks very good, looks good in scale. Like I said, that engine looks really nice in scale. You know, better than that, what is it, the AMT one, the 88 GT, where the engine looks like it's a 1/32 sitting inside there. So the whole thing looks really nice. And like I say, even like the fit and finish. So on your panel here, you see the line on the bottom of that notch. This guy right here. So then you got a lineup notch in the back. So that lineup notch sits inside here, and then this flat piece here will sit along here. So it's very nice, very easy to pin together. You can see where it's got a notch in the back where everything lines up. So you really can't screw that up. So pretty cool. All right, with that interior together, that looks pretty good. I was actually going to take and put seat belts in this, because that's what these pieces here are in the back. Those are your seat belts. So I don't know, I thought about doing it, but I probably should have done that before I put the side panels on. Yeah, so I'm going to leave them off on this one. Plus the back ones, you're really not going to see it once you get the body together, unless you're really looking inside there, but that's all right. Next time. So yeah, I think the interior looks pretty sweet in that. Pretty nice looking. So we're going to wrap this up here. Got the firewall in. So like I say, our guy's been doing some modifications to this car. So we got the camber caster plates painted. Changed them out for some high performance ones, like I say, to set the alignment a little better. And we got our master cylinder in there. So even painted the grommets on the bottom where the plastic tags into the cylinder itself. So the cover, or I should say the plastic, I actually did that in that weird yellowish color. If you ever look at these engines, so I got the engine pretty much finished at this point other than painting the cap. So I painted the fan and the back of the power steering pump, because if you ever look, like say you look at one of these, they're actually a weird yellowish orange color, especially once they get old and some heat in there. So because that's plastic on the back, and then it sits on the aluminum housing like that. So they did very correct on the model, so it's pretty cool. And same as the fans. Like I say, if you guys ever look at one of these, that's kind of what they look like. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to get that. So I retouched up that EGR valve, put the white back on the back there. Like I said, that's where your plug goes in. And that's also the position sensor of the valve, that piece that bolts on the back of there. So that's where we're at with that. So it turned out pretty cool. I'm thinking about wiring this. I mean, it's turning out pretty cool to where I probably should throw some wires on it. But, of course, once I start that, and then I'd want to go further. And it's got the AC compressor. And on the firewall, I did paint the kind of your H block. That's what it looks like on here. Almost like for your manifold for the AC. But this should have had a inline orifice valve for the AC system. But I'm thinking about putting AC lines on it, maybe detailing it out. I'm not sure yet. Well, thinking about it, but if I do decide, that's where we're going to go. And the other thing I thought was kind of weird, if you look at the kit, they want you to put the engine in now. So just something I see kind of discrepancy in the instructions that they should have fixed. So they want you to put the engine in, right? Well, they give you a little pin in the back, and they give you a pin hole there. So you put that in there. Well, that's the only thing that holds the engine in. There's nothing else that holds it. So they want you to go, once you get to step, because that's step 6, if you're following along in the instructions, which I know a lot of us don't. But for the race car application, they give you actually both cross members. So the race car application, which my guy is going to use as well, because like I say, we did some modifications, and you can get the tubular K member for these, because I would love to put one in my car, and that'd be nice to do, because it gives you a lot more room for the headers. But this is the stock K member. So this one, they give you both of them in the kit. And this one here has got your control arms on it. So they throw that in there. And this one here in the kit, they give you this. And then you also add these pieces, which I have not taken off yet. These pieces here, those are supports that goes inside the K member, and that's what holds the engine up. So once you put them on, the engine has mounts right here on the side, right underneath the headers. And that sits on top of that. So I would think that you would be able to put this on first. I mean, that's how they should have had it. And then once you put the engine on, it'll sit in there nice for you. So I'm not sure why they went that route. Maybe I'll find out once I get to that point, but I don't see where there should have been a problem where they should have put that on after the fact. But oh well, it's not a big deal. So it's still going together pretty good. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up, and I appreciate you guys following along and checking out the channel. And we will see you on the next build. So you guys have a good one. And once again, thanks for watching. We'll see ya.